We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully your day is going well. It is Tuesday if you're listening to this on the podcast, but we're doing a Substack Live. So it is Monday night, about 10:35 Central Time. Getting on a little late here. I had to watch the Vikings-Chicago game, first game of the season. J.J. McCarthy getting his first game as a pro. It went really badly for about three quarters. And then, of course, things switched around and the Vikings ultimately won, and JJ did all right in the long run. We're not going to talk about sports here, obviously. We're going to talk about some of the fucked up shit that's going on, and it's pretty crazy. I mean, people ask me, how do you always find stuff to talk about? How do I not find stuff to talk about? There's always stupid, crazy shit by Donald Trump or the Republican Party, so it isn't hard to come up with topics. And we've got a number of big topics tonight that we'll talk about. And I want to thank all you folks for joining me on the Substack Live. You folks are very important to doing these lives. You're very important. I need your input. I need your questions, your comments, your perspectives. That makes this whole thing sound a lot better and make it a lot easier for me. And let's be honest, the bottom line is make it easy for Mike. Nancy Clefman says, unbelievable Vikes. Yeah, that was a weird game. First three quarters, I wasn't too impressed. The fourth quarter, things turned around. So hopefully that's the start of good things to come, at least for we Viking supporters. So you remember the story. You no doubt remember the story where the Wall Street Journal came out and reported that Donald Trump had written a birthday card of sorts to Jeffrey Epstein when he turned 50. And the weird thing about this birthday card was he wrote drew the outline of a woman, and then wrote this creepy message. It was full of innuendo and really creepy shit. And at that point, Donald Trump and everybody started. Hold on a second here. I'm losing all my. Okay, there we go again. But everybody, including Donald Trump, says that wasn't true. That was just a hoax, and we just can't. What happened to all the questions? Aren't all the people coming in? I don't know. Something happened here. I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to drop out of this, and then I'm going to start again, and hopefully we won't have any technical problems. Because if you're not able to talk back to me, then well, wait a minute here. Maybe we're getting it back. Karen Krostowski says, I've always been a Vikings fan, even when they lose. Well, I tend to jump on the bandwagon, but I was born and raised here, so I continue to be a Vikings fan through and through. Anyway, let's get back to the point at hand. Let's talk about Donald Trump and the fucked up shit that he is he's going through. And, the thing about it is he fails every time. When the first report came out about this birthday page that he was alleged to have written, it was a creepy picture, creepy words, like a fake interaction between him and Jeffrey Epstein, and then it was signed by Donald Trump. Now, when it first got to be reported, Donald Trump knew he drew this and wrote this thing, that it was in the book, but he just does what Donald Trump typically does, and he lied, and he said, that's not true, that's a hoax, that never happened, this is just people trying to gang up on me. Well, today, the Wall Street Journal posted a picture of that birthday message. Posted a picture of that birthday message. There you have it. Just like they described it. Donald Trump signed it. Everything was real. Now, the question is, how are these people going to respond to it? I mean, we had J.D. Vance saying the whole story was bullshit. It wasn't true. Well, J.D., tell us now what you think, because there's the piece of paper. And the way this all came about was there was a subpoena sent to the Epstein estate. And the Epstein estate had this birthday book and this particular piece of paper signed by Donald Trump. It always existed. even though Donald Trump said it didn't. There were some other documents handed over to, and we're waiting to see what's going on with that. Janice says he has no more fucking hoaxes in his life than any other human being. Well, anything that goes against Donald Trump, clearly in his mind, is a hoax. So, yeah, it's kind of like the boy who cried wolf. Everybody who says anything against him is a liar. Every story about him is a hoax. So the entire world is wrong, but not Donnie Trump. Now, people like you and me can see this, see how silly that is. But there are still Trump-lefucks that are standing strong with Donald Trump and believe every fucking thing he says. So we'll see how this plays out. But Donald Trump, once again, looks like a loser in this situation. There was one other way that he became a loser today. You remember the lawsuit that E. Jean Carroll had against Donald Trump for defamation of character. The first one, case, E. Jean Carroll won $5 million. So what does Donald Trump do? Of course, he defames her again. And this time they go to court. He's sued. He loses to the tune of $83 million. So he owes E. Jean Carroll $88 million. Now, Donald Trump is a punk. He's a deadbeat. He's not going to pay her without appealing it. And appeal it he did. He appealed it to the appellate court. The appellate court came back to say, yeah, now you're going to have to pay him. See, Donald Trump went to them and said, look, I have immunity now by way of the Supreme Court. So they should just let this go and I don't have to pay her. Well, what Donald Trump didn't understand is some of this happened before he was president of the United States. Secondly, it's a civil court, not a criminal court, so it's really not something that the Supreme Court really has any effect on. Karen says plus interest. Oh, yeah, plus interest. Plus interest. We'll see what that all ends up to be, because he's not going to get up in the morning and write a check. He's going to try to delay this and fuck around a little bit more. The only thing I can hope is that E. Jean Carroll, if she doesn't get paid, she can start taking his shit. That would be cool. Now, people are saying to me, well, he's grifted so much money from the United States of America that $80 million isn't a big deal to him anymore. He's got the money. And that may very well be true. But what's more important when it comes to Donald Trump isn't the money. It's that he fucking lost. He's a narcissist. He can't stand losing or being thought of as a loser. And what other way can you possibly look at this situation other than he lost? All right, let's see here. Cat says he probably asked SCOTUS to weigh in anyway. How on the earth will Robert spin that one? Yeah, he might ask them to do that, but it's not going to work. James says he's going to do something outrageous to distract from today's embarrassment. Look out, blue states. Well, he's running into some problems there too. He's going to go into Chicago, or so he says, and they're kind of lining up pretty good. I know the governor and Governor Pritzker and the mayor, they're talking about arresting ICE agents that may break the law. Let's be honest. They're going to break the law. Anytime you grab people off the street and spirit them away, that's a little something we call kidnapping, especially if you're not identifying yourself, especially if there's no arrest warrant, or especially if there is no due process. And we can expect that that is the case with everything. But don't you find it funny? He keeps saying, I'm going into Chicago. I'm going into Chicago. He said he was going to go at the end of last week. He didn't do it. He's got people in a naval base near Chicago staging, apparently. But now he's saying it's close to the end of the week here. There is a chance, I think, that he won't do it because of the pushback. And because he's a bully, anytime people push back, that's when he chickens out. Taco. Trump always chickens out. I don't know if he will chicken out in this situation, but the fact of the matter is, when he goes into Chicago, it's going to be embarrassing for him. It seems like everything is falling apart for him at this point. Motherfucker can't win for losing. Stewart says Trump's a pussy. No, Stewart, he's a pussy-ass bitch. That's something I stole from Chrissy Teigen long ago, and I always like that term because it seems to fit Donald Trump so well. Vincent says, yeah, either it's because people are joining or something else is causing chat to be deleted. Yeah, I was getting some of the chat deleted, and now it's back again, so I'm not sure what's going on there, but we'll just keep going, and we'll talk about the what's going on. You know, the one thing I do get some positivity out is Donald Trump keeps losing here, and it seems to be getting in his head. This whole birthday thing that he said was a hoax, that J.D. Vance said was a hoax, it all of a sudden appears. Now, what are you going to do about that? Somebody else forged his name? I doubt that. I doubt that's likely possible. Yeah, okay, I'm losing questions again. So if you put a question out there and I don't respond to it, it's because somehow Substack made it disappear. So just go ahead and make it again, because I presume it will come back. I don't know what the fuck's going on with Substack at this point, and at this stage, I'm not starting over. Fuck it. We're going to talk about the stuff that's going on. Now, one of the other things that happened where Donald Trump did win is in the Supreme Court on something else. First, I'm going to read this because I don't know if it's going to go away. I think the response to the reporter over the weekend, the one that asked him about going to war with Chicago, indicates his second thoughts. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a good point. There was actually two people responding to that question. First one was Tom Homan. Now, what WSOR is talking about is when Donald Trump posted that stupid fucking meme of him in like Apocalypse Now, and I love the smell of deportation in the morning, and we're going to show Chicago why it's called the Department of War. It's not called the Department of War. He hasn't changed it yet. But that obviously was going to be trying to make a point to these people. So Tom Homan was on with Jake Tapper, and Jake Tapper said, is the president going to war with Chicago? Because that's kind of what he insinuated. Tom Homan says, well, I think you're taking it out of context. Out of context, motherfucker. He posted it. There's no context to be needed here. It said what it said, and the question is legit. Answer the fucking question. But he couldn't. So then at a press conference, a young black reporter asked Donald Trump, are you going to war with Chicago? And he immediately started to be demeaning to this woman. And he said, no, that's fake news. No, bitch, that's what you said in your Truth Social post. And then he started doing what he always does. Be quiet. Be quiet. You need to listen. Be quiet. You never listen. That's why you're a second-rate reporter. That's what he said to this woman. She asked a legitimate question based on the shit he's done, and that's how he reacts. That's how he treats women. We'll talk about something else, about how he revealed his obviously disrespect of women in just a moment. What do you think about Eric Adams getting a job offer from Trump so Cuomo can face off against Mondami? These off-year elections becoming soon will be the bellwether for next year and the midterms. Yeah, I think you're probably right about that. There is some game going on, but if you're a Democrat and you have plans to vote for Eric Adams, the fuck is wrong with you? You don't know what you're talking about. This guy is a crook. He should be in jail. The only reason he isn't in jail is because Donald Trump cut him some slack, went to the DOJ and said, don't prosecute this guy. Why would he do that? A Democrat. Why would he do that for Eric Adams? Well, he wanted some favors in New York, especially with the deportations. He wanted a friend in the mayor's office, and he got one. He got one in Eric Adams. Eric Adams is not a Democrat. He's not a decent person. He is a crook. So I don't know if Eric Adams will get out of the race. He probably should anyway, I mean, given the circumstances. But if he's going to get out of the way for Cuomo, well, Cuomo didn't do too well against Mondani anyway in the primary. Why is Cuomo in there? You lost the primary, motherfucker. You have a checkered past as well. I think Mondani will win, and I think the Republicans are concerned about Eric Adams taking away votes from Cuomo. But understand this, both Eric Adams and Cuomo are Democrats. So why are the Republicans playing this game? They don't like Mondani because he's talking about working for the people. They're saying he's communist and all that stuff, and that's not true. But he also happens to be Muslim. He happens to be brown, and that would explain why the Republicans are trying to push back against him. Eric Adams called someone a snake. Oh, hot kettle. Snake, you say, Eric Adams. Well, Eric Adams, if we were going to describe a snake, it would certainly be Eric Adams. No question about it. This guy is a slimy motherfucker. And if he ends up working for Donald Trump, good for you, because Donald Trump's future is short. A lot of people working for Donald Trump, when this is all said and done, will find themselves in trouble. Because when it's finally over for Donald Trump, a lot will be exposed. When he's no longer in power, and that day is coming, when he's no longer in power, there's going to be a lot of stuff coming out about Donald Trump. He can't hold them back, and it's going to come pouring out. And everybody who stood with Donald Trump, from Eric Adams down to Lindsey Graham to anybody else, is going to pay the price. Because every time there's an election, they're going to say, yeah, but you supported Donald Trump. And by then, Donald Trump will be much like would be a pariah. You know how Richard Nixon was after the Watergate thing? Be worse for Donald Trump after this, because there'll be a lot of evidence that's revealed. And frankly, I would doubt if he's even healthy enough to be ambulatory. I don't think he'll be looking at any kind of pardons. Yes, he has immunity, but there are a lot of things in that immunity that don't cover, like taking bribes and doing some of these egregious things against the Constitution and against international law. If you think Donald Trump is going to walk free if he's still alive, you're fooling yourself, because he's going to have a lot of troubles. Democrats have a chance to take the Virginia governorship. If it's a wipeout this November, imagine what the Republicans will think the next year. Eric Adams actually said he's not dropping out. His ego is similar to that of Cuomo. Well, I hope they don't. I hope they don't drop out. I mean, the Democrats in New York have clearly said, we want Mondani. They don't want Cuomo for obvious reasons. They don't want Eric Adams for obvious reasons. So they'll just take votes from each other, and Mondani should win pretty easily. Vincent said, and it looks like Vincent's from Canada, it is astonishing that Trump is managing to piss off both North and South Korea with the Hyundai factory raid to some covert mission in North Korea in 2019 that killed some random fishermen. Yeah, that was an interesting story and a pretty stupid story. As some of you know, I live in Minnesota, but I have a small condo down in Savannah, Georgia, which I love. My whole family loves Savannah. And South Korea invested a ton of money into the United States to build at least one, maybe a couple of factories just outside Savannah to build EV batteries. Now, this was a big deal. This is a big factory and a lot of money coming into the country. And isn't it funny that Donald Trump keeps bragging about how much money he's getting from foreign countries to invest in this country? So South Korea invests some money into this country, builds a factory. They're in the process of putting it together. It's not up and operating yet. There was nobody in the United States that could actually do the things that need to be done there. So, of course, South Korea brought in some South Korean nationals to work on it. Now, some of them are on work visas. I don't know if any of them are illegal or not, but the fact of the matter is that once they got here and they're working on it, and again, remember, it's not open at this point. They're just building it or building the infrastructure. There is a woman by the name of Tory Brannan. Tory Brannan is a Republican, a MAGA Republican, a Trump bumper, if you will. She's running for the 12th district, congressional district. And she called on this Hyundai plant. She narked on this Hyundai plant. ICE goes in, they pick up 450 of them, many of them South Korean nationals, and starts to deport them. The only problem is South Korea didn't like that bullshit. They sent a bunch of diplomats here. They went to the embassy in South Korea, the U.S. embassy, and they complained. Now, here's the deal. Here's the deal. South Korea's pissed right now. They don't like how their people were treated, so they're not going to send any more South Koreans here. Donnie said, you need to train Americans to do the job. Well, that's kind of what they were doing. You're going to need people who know what the fuck is up to train them, but now you kick them out, piss them off. So I don't know what's going to happen with this situation, but when this was to be up and running, it was going to bring 8,500 jobs to the area. Can you imagine that? 8,500 jobs, and Donald Trump fucked it up again. Trevor Lee says, I heard that South Korea is going to work together to get the people who were detained by ICE. Trevor, I think I heard that they have been released. I'm not sure about that, but Trevor Lee says that Tory bitch is going to experience FAFO. Yeah, she is. I mean, she's running for the 12th district, and she does this, and now she's going to cost the United States government, not to mention the state of Georgia, hundreds of billions of dollars. At best case, this is going to delay the process in getting this done. So that will delay the process in which people will get jobs. The whole thing was fucking stupid, and it just continues to amaze me how they keep fucking up like this and keep kicking themselves in the ass. I want to remind you, for whatever reason, we're still losing the questions that are up there, and if I'm talking and I don't get to the questions right away, somehow they fucking disappear. So Substack, you need to shore it up here and get that figured out. So if I don't answer your question, again, just type the question in. And again, I'm sorry, not me, it's Substack, but I want to address what everybody says. It's important that we have people interacting, and I appreciate those of you that have interacted. Trevor's out there. If you don't know who Trevor is, he's up in the Northwest part of the country. He has been on the Rational Boomer podcast a number of times. We've got some other people out there. I saw a spacer out there who's usually asking a lot of questions. I haven't seen one as yet. But again, I'm sitting here looking at this, and there are no questions now. And I know there were some. They just all of a sudden disappear. So what the fuck? I got into doing this late tonight. Maybe that has some bearing on it. But we're trying to get through this thing. Spend about an hour, talk about some of the things that are going on. I wanted to bring something else up, too. Something that Donald Trump said, and it really reveals what kind of human fucking being he is. Donald Trump was talking in front of some prayer group or something, a bunch of religious folks, the radical right religious fucks. He was talking to them on Sunday, and I believe it was in what was the Rose Garden, now is a fucking patio, I guess. But he was talking to them, and he was talking about the crime rates in Washington, D.C. And he was saying they're 80% less than they were before, which is not true. But he said it should be higher than that. And he was complaining that it should be almost perfect, that there would be no crime in Washington, D.C. now that he sent the troops in. But unfortunately, he's saying this. Unfortunately, there is the, he's mad that they're counting crimes, domestic violence, among a wife and a husband. He doesn't like that. He says, if they've got a little fight going on in their house, they count that as a crime too, and that's ridiculous. So Donald Trump is not worried about domestic violence. He doesn't even count it as a crime. And it has to do with his attitude about women, certainly, but it also has to do with him wanting to look good um, in terms of the crime rate going down in Washington D.C. Trevor says, I watched a video that if Trump sends the National Guard and ICE to Chicago, then J.B. Pritzker in the state of Illinois can't arrest them. Is that right? Yes, if they break a law. Absolutely. If they break a law, which they regularly do. They do break laws. Spacer says, do you know about Representative Young Kim? She is Korean immigrant and a Trump sycophant. Not a good story I heard is a North Korean defector who immigrated to the U.S. is running for the Democratic nomination against her in California. They'll try to play the former communist card, but her message about freedom, democracy, and the rule of law with her experience makes her a great contender. I hope she wins. Yeah, no, I have. I've heard of Young Kim, but I didn't hear about the Democratic candidate. Let's be honest. At this stage of the game, it doesn't matter who's running against a Republican. A Republican wins, and we're fucked. We've got to eradicate as many of the Republicans as we can. Donald Trump is a criminal. Excuse me. Donald Trump is a criminal. He's trying to overthrow this government. And while there might be some Republicans that will say, well, I'm not as bad as he is. Yeah, but you support him. You fucking support him. So, yeah, we're not voting for any Republicans. We've got to eradicate them. They're like cancer. If you leave one, it'll end up spreading. We've gone through this kind of stuff before, not to this extent, but this kind of ideology. And when we think we eradicate it, then it comes roaring back like we've seen here. WSOR says Republicans, they all suck. Yeah, I would tend to agree. Whose Cat says Esther Kim Verrett. Okay, that's the candidate running against the Republican. Yeah, I would just say vote for anybody that's not Republican at this point. Even if they're not necessarily great candidates, they're better than what we've got. At least we can get some room and actually start back on the as close to the normal track that we hope to get back on. I mean, the important thing you have to remember is even after we eradicate the Republicans, get Donald Trump out of office, it's going to take a long time to fix the mess that they've created. Absolutely. It's going to take a long time. But you shouldn't be upset about that because at least we're on the right track and things will get better. Spacer says, congrats to Norway for keeping with democracy. Absolutely. Trevor says, once Orange Taco Tits Boy is gone, then the revenge tour starts. Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. And the one thing I hope nobody in the Democratic Party does or says, well, we finally got out from under that. Let's just let the country heal and just forget about it and send them away. No, there has to be accountability. People have gone through so much shit and they've already felt like there's no accountability. And if you want closure to this whole thing, there's going to have to be accountability. And what you have to understand is with Donald Trump, as much as people will hold him accountable, if something unforeseen or foreseen should happen to Donald Trump, they're going to still need to get accountability. And there's still plenty of people around him that are complicit with what Donald Trump did. They are implicated in all the crimes Donald Trump started from the top. We've got Elon Musk. We've got Pam Bondi. We've got um, Marco Rubio, we got Pete Hegseth, and we got all the other people, the pimple faced guys that went into all the departments. All these people are going to have to be addressed regarding their crimes. And without the protection of Donald Trump, they're in for a world of hurt. Spacer says right on, after the Republicans are out, it's time for us to be selfish. And by that, I mean we finally push this country to a better future. Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully, this wakes up the reasonably minded folks. And what I mean by that is the Republicans are obviously a dumpster fire. We got to get rid of the Republicans. But you have to understand we have some bad Democrats too, or at least lazy Democrats. We've got Democrats that take APAC money. We've got Democrats that take other kind of lobbying money, and then they do the bidding for those people that give them the money instead of doing what they need to do for us. We need to get rid of those motherfuckers. Vincent says, what's Trump plan to face against BRICS nations while undoing G7 and trade partners trade? BRICS organization consists of Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and many more. Well, I'll be honest with you. I don't know if he's going to have much input there at all. They're already having meetings between China, North Korea, and Russia and not inviting Donald Trump. And this is bugging Donald Trump. He thinks they're plotting against us. Well, of course they're plotting against us. They've been plotting against us for decades. What you have to understand, Donnie, is you're doing their work for them. They want to tear down the country from the inside. They want to weaken democracy. Now all they have to do is sit and watch because Donald Trump is doing that now. So I'm not worried about China and Russia at this point with regards to America, because we got our own fucking villain in this country doing the very things that Putin and Xi and Kim Jong-un want to happen. They have been successful in manipulating Donald Trump, and he's doing their dirty work. Let's see here. Spacer says, Vincent, BRICS is a threat, but a paper tiger, in my opinion. China and India hate each other, and most of the economics of this organization are not as strong as people think. They are specifically Russia. Rouser CW agreed 100%. Why did 20 Democrats vote to stand with Israel money? Well, it's because they're getting money from AIPAC. Why isn't Hakeem Jeffries and some of the other older people not supporting Mondani? You know, we're talking about people from New York not supporting the Democratic nominee for the mayor of New York City. Why would that be? Hakeem Jeffrey gets his AIPAC money, and I'm sure AIPAC is saying, do not support this guy. He's Muslim, and making up whatever they're making up about him. I give this kid credit, and he is a kid. He's in his 30s. I have kids in my 30s, in their 30s. And he's doing the job. He's talking the talk, walking the walk, and not afraid of anybody. And I hope this is a signal to a lot of younger people in this country. We need more young people running for office. We're starting to see it more and more, and I think that's good. As I've said before, we've been a nation run by old white men, and we can see where that brought us. Created a dumpster fire in this country. We've lost credibility internationally. People in this country are suffering mightily, and that's where old white men brought us. So we need younger people, younger men and women, younger men and women of color, men of younger women of various sexual orientation. These are all true citizens of this country. They have every right to be leaders in this country if they are voted in to do so. And I think the important thing for young people have to understand is if you keep going the way we're going with old white men making decisions, they are going to make decisions that will affect you, and all the old white men and women will be dead. They're making decisions that they won't have to deal with, but you will. So as we go on into the future and some of these boomers and these old people die off, you want to be the creator of your own destiny. What these old white people are doing is not beneficial to you. overturning Roe v. Wade, deportations, tariffs. There are a lot of people that vote for Donald Trump or support Donald Trump and clearly haven't paid attention to what's going on. And it's about time they fucking wake up. Spacer says we need to educate people on what AIPAC is and their danger. I saw a clip from Bulwark, even though I don't really respect them, Sarah Longwell, who jumped on the dump Biden bandwagon, but they didn't know what AIPAC is and what they should know about it and how they have corrupted our democracy. Yeah, people will tell you that AIPAC isn't an organization of Israel. And whether it is or not, it's hard to say. Whether they just make it look like it's not, I don't know. But AIPAC is a problem. And here's where I think the problem is. It's said that AIPAC puts money in the pockets of the majority of our Congress, not just Republicans, but Democrats too. Think about this. How safe do you feel with a foreign nation, foreign country, influencing our Congress? And they're influencing the Congress by paying these congressmen, and then these congressmen and women will do the bidding of whatever these folks want done, whether it's for or against us. That seems dangerous to me. Linda says any PAC is a problem. Yes, I will agree with you there, Linda. Any PAC, whether it's big pharma, big alcohol, big medical, whatever it is. The whole idea that money should be taken out of the system should be one of the first things we look at once Democrats get power again. And to be honest with you, this all started to happen when they brought in Citizens United. The first thing we do is we get rid of that motherfucker. Question on American food safety with Trump or food companies taking certain safeties away to turn up more profits over safety. Remember the radioactive shrimp. Yeah. And for those places that are jumping on the bandwagon and quitting the safety things, we should just stop buying their shit. Because if we don't know if they're safe, why would we want to ingest that bullshit? AIPAC, the Federalist Society, NRA, and Heritage are the dangers. They need to be taken down. I agree with you. All of those have done nothing but damage to this country, caused this country pain and trouble. I agree with you. Those are some of them that need to be taken out, but there's others too. That part of the reason we pay more for pharmaceuticals than any place else in the country is because the big pharma lobby. And Linda says, of course, we should get rid of Citizens United. Absolutely. I mean, everybody with a reasonable mind knew when they added that to our campaign rules that it was going to be a fucking mess. And as it turns out, it's a fucking mess. That's one of the things that I wonder about our system. The Republican Party has basically destroyed itself. It bears no resemblance to what it once was. It's not conservative by any sense. Donald Trump is not Republican in the true sense of the meaning. So he's pretty much destroyed the Republican Party, and I don't know that can ever be fixed. But I'll be honest with you, seeing what I've seen, you got to wonder if the entire system isn't corrupted at this point. And when I say corrupted, I'm talking like a hard drive corrupted, meaning it's broken. It does seem as though it's broken. And people are worried about who's going to be the Democratic nominee. Talked about this before. We should learn a lesson with Donald Trump when he was elected. Donald Trump was not a Republican, didn't act like a Republican. He's not a conservative. He added $7 trillion to the debt in the first term. And now in this term, he's looking to add $3 to $5 trillion minimum in the first 2 years. That isn't a conservative move at all. But what worked for Donald Trump should have been a red flag to the Democrats and Republicans. Why did Donald Trump win in the first place? It's because people are frustrated and tired of business as usual in Washington, D.C. They're tired of the establishment politics. And the reason they're tired is because what we were talking about before, all the PACs paying money, and then our people that we elect vote against us. People recognize this. They see it, and they're tired of the bullshit. They're tired of it. So what I would suggest to a Democratic candidate, instead of worrying about following all the rules of the Democratic Party, I would be pugilistic out there. I would fight back as hard as you can and then build your own brand like Donald Trump did. Give people something to look up to, give something for people to follow, and build a brand of whoever the human is that we are going to put up as a Democratic nominee. Vincent says a lot of Americans are going to use Canada flag patch during their travels. Yeah, probably a good idea. I don't plan to go outside the country anytime soon, given the circumstances, given the climate of things. But I got to think telling people that you're an American is not a positive in these days. Spacer says, I had a friend give a thought about legislature reform. He said that the people should vote on constitutional amendments to end the power of the legislator deciding by 3/4 of the country. I remember Ed's lesson on how the 19th Amendment was passed by one vote in Tennessee when state's amendment, I lost it again. Sorry, Spacer. I don't know what the fuck's going on with Substack, but straighten this shit out. Um, I agree with what you said, Spacer, and I'm sorry I missed the last part of that. Okay, he put it up again. He said, I remember Ed's lesson, one vote for Tennessee. When states amend their constitutions, people vote on it. What is your opinion? I think anytime people can vote on things, and then if they can vote on things as opposed to Congress making choices that are in their best interest, I think that's a good idea. Somebody just asked me if I listen to the um, shrink, shrinking shrimp podcast or something along those lines. I'll be honest with you. I don't listen to a lot of podcasts. Because usually when I'm trying to gather information, I'm trying to gather stories in quick order. And then when I have the stories, I do investigate those stories. Sometimes I'll check with a podcast, but usually it's too long and I got to listen to it for an hour and I don't have an hour to work on this particular topic. I need to find as much information as I can, verify what I can, come up with a take, and then tell you what's going on. So I don't, shrinking Trump. Okay. I don't listen to that podcast. I probably should. There's probably a lot of podcasts I should listen to. I mean, I had See Temptation on yesterday on the podcast. She does a great podcast. I've heard bits and pieces, but I haven't really had the time to listen to it. I would suggest you do it though, because there's a lot of great information and she is a sharp lady. And it was an interesting conversation with her yesterday because she's in Chicago and she's also a bit of a fighter. So it's going to be interesting what she tells us should they invade Chicago sometime this week. Now, there are a lot of great podcasts out there. I mean, people always ask me, do I listen to Midas Touch? I listen to their short stuff. I don't listen to the long form stuff. And it's not because I have any qualms with them or I think they're bad. I think Midas Touch is a great service and I think they should get huge listenership. I think the more people that listen to Midas Touch or some of these other podcasts, you're going to learn a lot. And that's the bottom line. The more you know, the better off we all are. The better you have an opportunity to pass that information along to somebody. I would definitely listen to them. But the way I put things together, I don't really have the time to do it, especially now. I don't know if I told you this. I'm retired, as you know, but I do TikToks and I do podcasts and other platforms like Substack here. But now I have a grandson who's 3 months old. My wife and I are going over there 2-3 days a week, kind of playing. I'm still keeping up with what's going on, but I'm watching the cutest little 3-month-old child you'd ever seen. He's the coolest dude. I can't wait till he gets older so I can start teaching him stuff that is going to piss off their dad, my son. Did you see Trump's demand to red states to get him a 100-seat Republican majority over the Democrats. There is no seats to that many. He can't even get 1 or 2 seats. I saw the ruling from Utah. Democrats are going to win big next year, maybe even a super majority. Well, if you fuck up this country this much, somebody's got to get blamed, and it ain't the Democrats because they don't have power. Yeah, I see him trying to get a seat or 2 or 3 here and there, and while it's good to fight back against him, I don't think any of it's gonna do them any good. I think, he could win a 40-seat majority. That would be interesting. Yeah, Donald Trump wants a 100-seat majority, but Donald Trump wants a lot of things, and, he does nothing but fuck up, so good luck with that. Um, as we get deeper into this term and things continually go bad for Donald Trump, like this Epstein situation, you're gonna see him flailing. You're gonna see him saying a lot of crazy shit. He's saying racist shit. He's saying sexist shit. He's, disrespecting women and minorities and the military and the veterans. Rouser CW says Republicans are trying to steal the seats. Yeah, of course they are. I don't know if they're in a position to steal enough seats to even matter when we come to the 2026 election. They've done so many misdeeds that people hate them. I mean, we've got farmers right now. This is the story I love. Farmers are coming out and saying, "We're desperate. We need help. We need money." And they're not getting much response from Donald Trump. Hold on. Republicans can't read the room. I just heard today that Lisa Murkowski is contemplating a run for Alaska governor. Well, she should run for something else because she's not going to win in Alaska in this next term. I don't know when she's up. Is she up in 26 or 28? Yeah, a lot of these people are going to be out looking for other jobs because they know it's going to be bad in Congress and in the Senate. So they're going to be looking elsewhere. Susan Collins in Maine is probably looking at some serious options because that Democratic candidate, that oyster farmer in Maine is really kicking up a lot of attention. He's saying a lot of the important things, and she's probably going to get beat. And I don't think these people, their egos can handle them getting beat. So we'll see what happens with that. Let's see here. They can scrounge out as many seats as they can. Missouri is redistricting, but it's just 1 seat. Not really going to do much with the damage that has been done with the country. Yeah, I mean, you can't destroy the economy, and you can't do what you do in terms of human rights, and you can't be tied to something like Jeffrey Epstein and expect to win seats. You can try to steal or cheat as much as you want, but you're not going to be able to cover enough of it. Martha Salinas says, wait, but MAGA says if the governor helps you, it's socialism. MAGA hypocrisy. Yeah, this is something I've been hearing a lot about. The farmers are now crying because they're losing all kinds of money. And why wouldn't that be the case? Donald Trump has the tariffs. He's running all the immigrants out. These people can't run farms. And even if they could run farms, they've got nothing to sell or nobody to sell to. So these people are in trouble. And it's funny, right now they're starting to be worried about it. They should have been worried about it before the election. So we remember what happened in the first term with Donald Trump. He fucked over the farmers and they lost all kinds of money. People lost their farms, but of course he bailed them out. He bailed them out in the first term. So you'd think these fuckers would learn a lesson, but they don't learn a lesson because 4 years later, they vote for the dumbass again. Farmers voted for exactly what Donald Trump said. And now they're crying because they have no money and they're losing their farms. But here's the deal. You got what you voted for. And now you want to pull out. But much like Republicans talked about for a long time when talking about liberals, we don't like socialism. We don't like welfare. Nobody should get socialism and welfare. So now we have these farmers asking for empathy, which they don't have. socialism and or welfare. And Democrats are saying, fuck yourself. No, you shouldn't get it. You got what you voted for. Why should we bail you out when you knew exactly what you were voting for? And now they're crying about that. How can you be so unsympathetic? How can you put at risk our farmers? Well, we did. You fucking did. And people will say, well, we could be compassionate and help them out. They're feeding the country and all that stuff. And yeah, I get that. The reason I don't think we should help them has nothing to do with compassion or empathy or anything like that. We saw what they did in the first term. They got their ass kicked. They voted for them in 2024. The only reason we should let them fry and let them burn to the ground is because apparently that is the only way they will fucking learn and won't do this again. See, that's the problem. Whenever these situations happen and Republicans screw things up or cost people jobs or farms or whatever, a Democrat comes in and saves them, does the right thing. So then 4 years later, they vote against the Democrat in spite of the fact that they saved their ass and vote for the Republican again. Apparently, they're not going to learn until they get their ass kicked. So, unfortunately, that's apparently what it's going to take. If I was the South Korean president, I would recall the ambassador. China is eager to improve trade relations with South Korea. It's one of the largest technology producers. That's the part that's worrying. Yeah, that's something to definitely consider. South Korea has been a friend of ours. We've helped them with North Korea. But Donald Trump is screwing up that relationship just as he screwed up the relationship with the EU and China and everything else. We've got people at a point now where they're just saying, it's not worth dealing with you. We can't cut a deal with you because, Donnie, you keep changing it and you don't follow up with your side of the deal. But what's the point of negotiating with somebody you just cannot trust? Michael says the economy will crash and we'll be in a war somewhere, so little Donnie fuckstick can feel important and consolidate power. Yeah, I can see how you would say that. The economy is taking a hit. We're seeing the jobs falling off the table. We're seeing prices go up. We're seeing a lot of things going wrong, and it's likely to get worse before it's done. As far as getting us in a war, that's possible. I mean, it looks like he may be trying to do something like that with Venezuela. He sends all those destroyers and such down around Venezuela. He then shoots that fishing boat out of the ocean. And then, I don't know if you know this, but he sent 10 stealth fighters to Puerto Rico. And he said he did that to help with drug enforcement. Well, you don't send stealth fighters for drug enforcement. A lot of people think that he may be looking at invading Venezuela. For what reason? I don't fucking know. If he was to start a war, it'd be probably with somebody like that that's smaller than us, so he could win easily and he could be a victorious military president. Martha says billionaires love recessions. That's when they buy everything cheap. Well, you're probably right about that. He'll use war to mess with the elections too. I'll be honest with you. I don't know that Donald Trump is going to be around by 2026. He's not healthy enough. He's fucking up too much. Epstein is looming on him. I don't know that he'll be in a position to really fuck with the 2026 election. Now, that's not to say that other Republicans won't, but once Donald Trump is gone, once you cut the head off the snake, that whole party, the whole MAGA thing will be far weaker. That's why when people say, well, J.D. Vance is just as bad as Donald Trump. Ideologically, yeah, he's probably similar to Donald Trump. He may be worse than Donald Trump because Donald Trump doesn't know what he's fucking talking about. But he also is not as charismatic. He's not somebody the MAGA really likes. They dislike him. Most Republicans dislike him. He's a dumbass piece of shit. So he won't have the authority. He won't have the power. And he won't have the leverage that Donald Trump has. He's not going to be a good president should that happen. But he's the least of our worries. Our biggest worry is Donald Trump getting him out the fucking door. You would also think that these far-right figures around the world aren't seeing that Trump is what Trump is doing isn't working, and it won't work for their countries either. I heard Conor McGregor wants to be the Irish president. I was laughing so hard. I saw that happen with Milei in Argentina. The protesters threw stones at him. These people can't read the room. No, they can't read the room. I mean, a good example of that is Donald Trump went to the US Open in his hometown of Queens, New York. He'd been there many times before, and he thought that he could walk in there and be a hero. They booed the shit out of him. And then they told the media, yeah, don't put that on the air. We don't want people knowing that they're booing him. But of course, everybody there has a camera on their phone, so we all saw how much booing was happening. Um, Browser says, what is the goal of the Trump administration to grift as much as possible as he can get his grifty hands on and then use the position? Went away again. I'm sorry. What is the reason for it? It's all about money. Donald Trump keeps score with money and power. Doesn't have anything to do with accomplishing anything. He tells you, oh, they're going to bring in $600 billion into the United States. That's his win to him. That's his win. He's going to tell everybody, I brought in more money than anybody. Yeah, we lost democracy. The legal system is broken. The Supreme Court is a joke. It's all about money for him and making him look good. That's what's important to Donald Trump. Spacer says Bolsonaro similar. He still thinks he has a shot in Brazil. He can't see his time is over, like how Trump and MAGA movement will eventually be over. Yeah, usually that's the case with these fucks. They think their power is everlasting and they will take it all the way off the fucking cliff. And that's what will happen with Donald Trump too. Fortunately, he'll probably take a lot of his Republican fucks with him. Epstein thing will blow it all up soon anyway. It's like the Watergate tapes. Oh, it's way worse than the Watergate tapes. What we're seeing with Epstein, we know the issue with the criminal behavior and the abuse of children. That's pretty bad. And that should be enough to take these fucks down. But there's got to be more to it than that, because we know that somehow Epstein had $1.5 billion floating around. That money doesn't happen with just this abuse. There's more to it. There may be more in things involving intelligence, international leaders, other countries. Certainly a lot of powerful and wealthy men in this country. Yeah, if that gets exposed, it's going to blow the fuck up. What is your opinion on Peter Thiel, Palantir? He has all the data now. I don't know if he has all the data now. Presumably he does. What do I think about it? I think it's abhorrent. I think it's fucking ridiculous, the fact that our government put us in a position like that. I can only hope that once Donald Trump is gone, there can be something done to take it down, or maybe even put Peter Thiel in jail, because all that data is supposed to be private. Whether he has it or not, if he does have it, then it should be fucking illegal. So we'll see. Browser says, I'm an American, Vincent. I do not think Canadians are communists. Well, nobody thinks Canadians are communist, other than maybe Republicans. Canadians are good people. I like the folks from Canada. We have a lot of people on the lives, TikTok and here and YouTube, that are from Canada. I have a lot of followers that are from Canada and other parts of the world. I envy those folks to be able to live in places that don't have a leader like Donald Trump. But it's interesting. A lot of people talk shit about Israel with the Israeli-Hamas war. They're upset about it. And every time you talk about Israel in that sense and genocide and all that, because that's what's happening. I don't care what anybody says. That's what's happening. But then people will say, well, you're anti-Semitic. And I will tell you this, I'm not anti-Semitic. I don't have a problem with the people of Israel or the country of Israel. Where I have the problem is with the leadership. Benjamin Netanyahu. Yeah, that's about right. But he is a war criminal. And once there's peace, He's likely to get run out of his job and probably go to jail. So his only motivation is to continue the war. That's why I thought it was weird. Donald Trump came out recently. He just says stuff. It doesn't necessarily have to be true. But he came out recently and he says, well, we worked out a peace agreement. Israel has agreed to it. Now we need Hamas to agree to it, which is weird to me because I know Hamas has come up with some agreements with Donald Trump and Israel's always turned it down. Question is, why does Israel always turn it down? Like I told you, Benjamin Netanyahu doesn't want to end the war. There's nothing in it for him for the war to end. He can maintain power by continuing the war. Same situation for Vladimir Putin in Russia. Russia has all kinds of problems financially, economically. Putin needs that war in order to stay in power and to be able to continue doing what he's doing. And this is where Donald Trump is done. He's siding with two parties, Netanyahu and Vladimir Putin, that don't want to end the war, and he thinks he's going to negotiate this out. Well, he's a shitty negotiator in the first place, and these people don't want to give in to anything. They want it all or nothing, and that's not going to happen. So Donnie's going to continue to try to negotiate this bullshit out, and he's going to fail, as he always does, and it will probably cause more deaths in Ukraine and certainly more deaths in Gaza. Hell, they want to deport everybody out of Gaza, send them to other countries, and then put up a fucking resort in the Gaza Strip. Donald Trump said that a long time ago, and a lot of people thought he was joking. Now it's becoming more realistic. Can you imagine if what Donald Trump says comes true? And what I'm talking about is they clear everybody out of there, they do the genocide, and then the Gaza Strip becomes under the control of the United States. And then Donald Trump does what he does and put up some gaudy, tacky fucking resort hotels and such. What Donald Trump isn't thinking about, this particular part of the world is very volatile. There's been wars there over and over again since before I was born. That kind of conflict is going to continue. So if you've got people working in the Gaza Strip or ultimately working and staying in the Gaza Strip in maybe a resort, there's going to be a lot of bombings, there's going to be a lot of problems, and people are not going to want to go there. But Donald Trump can't think beyond the end of his nose, so he thinks, oh, I'm going to make a lot of money, put up a hotel. No, dude, even if you do what you say you're going to do, it's not going to work because it'll quickly become a very dangerous place. And people won't want to go there. They won't want to live there. They won't want to work there. They certainly won't want to visit there. So, Donnie, another fucking dumb idea. But my point was that just because I'm speaking out against Israel doesn't suggest I'm anti-Semitic. I like the people of Israel, the Jewish folks. I have no problem with them. I have no problem with the country. I have a problem with the leadership. Russia, same thing. I have no problems with the people of Russia. They seem to be good people. I have a problem with the leadership. Now, what's interesting is we have a lot in common with those two countries. The people of this country, America, for the most part, the vast majority are good people. They want peace. They want a good life, and that's all they want. Our problem is, once again, our leadership. And this is what we hope that people around the world understand. This fucked up shit that's going on isn't us. It's Donald Trump. Put the blame on Donald Trump. Same can be said for Israel. Blame Benjamin Netanyahu. Same for Russia. Blame Vladimir Putin. See, our issue is leadership, not citizens, not people. We could probably pull in a room and pull in a bunch of Russian people and a bunch of Israeli people and have a hell of a party. Because most people, average people, just want a happy life, want a comfortable life, have less stress, and be able to raise their family. The fucking leadership, that's the problem in all three of those cases. So that should be the goal. Let's not fight against people of different countries. Let's get the leadership out of those fucking countries and try to get something normal and decent leading those countries. All right, we're about at that point. the situation with the questions going away and stuff, that's still going on. But the questions I did see and the fact that you folks participated, I want to thank you very much. I want to thank you because it's very important that you have the input. It makes this whole thing more interesting to you, hopefully, and definitely to me. So, for those of you listening, I want to thank you for taking the time to do that. I hope you have a great day. We will talk to you again tomorrow.